Hey everybody, Eric and Kobe here with MountModernLife.com. Hope you guys are doing great today. And we're going to finally be tackling a project we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, and that is replacing our living room slide-out trim with some reclaimed wood. So hopefully if you guys enjoy reclaimed wood or like seeing how it'll transform a space, this video will be inspiring for you. Now, before we dive into all that, we did want to touch a little bit on how we got here. And that's when we first started the RV renovation, we knew that we wanted to replace the slide-out trim with some hand-hewn skins. Now, the problem was we started looking all around, and the closest places we could find were pretty far away, and they wanted you to buy the skins in bulk, which cost a little bit more money, and considering we only needed a little bit, it just didn't seem like the right decision at the time. So we decided to take some new wood, stain it up, and use it as a placeholder, because surely as we traveled across the country, we were going to find what we were looking for. Well, over the next 3 years, we definitely looked around, not all the time, but whenever we got the chance, we'd swing into an antique shop and salvage yard or things along those lines, and we found some really cool wood, but it just wasn't the hand-hewn style we were going for. Well, flash forward to a couple weeks ago, and Katie's out running some errands, and as she's driving around, she sees this place called Crescent Moon Antique and Salvage Shop, and it turns out they were going to close in about 20 minutes, but she's like, let me just go in and see what they got. Well, she got talking to the owner, and he actually showed her these skins, which were perfect for what we were going for, so she picked them up, and here we are. Now, real quick, before we dive into actually replacing them, we do want to touch base on hand-hewn beams and kind of how they were made and what we love so much about the history they bring. One of our main points of inspiration comes from the architecture and millwork found in mountain homes and cabins, and it's their ability to use natural resources and reclaim materials that really bring in that character and history that we love so much. And as we developed this style and understanding of what inspired us, it really drew us to the hand-hewn beams. And just the history behind those beams and how they were created was so awesome. So we wanted to share with you a little bit of that. And a lot of it comes from the fact that when the settlers were moving west across the United States, they would have to develop their own land and build their own buildings. And a lot of times they would need to do that extremely quickly because they were braving the elements. And it was hard sometimes to get to a mill because it was either too far away or it was way too expensive in order to get the wood done that way. So what they would have to do was fell their own trees or cut down their own trees, and then they would have to take in that tree that's a round object and make it into a square beam so that they could successfully build their buildings. But the hard part was that in order to do that, all they had was axes and hand tools in order to get it done. So it was an extremely labor-intensive process, and it's what leads to a lot of the hand-hewn look that we all love so much today. And that's the marks and the different textures and the patina that's developed over time. Now, those markings are all developed from someone who put literally blood, sweat, and tears into making these beams so that they would have shelter. And now our ability to use this wood after so many years, hundreds of years, in our space in order to highlight that energy and effort that someone put in to these beams is so awesome. Our wood specifically is from an 1870s barn. It's actually rock elm. Now, back in the day, rock elm was an extremely sought after wood because it grew extremely tall and strong. They used it a lot in ships because it was water resistant, and then they also used it in spokes and hubs for some of the first vehicles because of its strength. Nowadays, you don't really find it that often because the soil doesn't allow for the trees to grow as big and strong as they used to. But we're really excited about the wood we found, and we're looking forward to getting it up on our slide out. But anyway, let's get started. All right, so step number one is going to be removing the old slide out trim, which we're going to do that for three reasons. Number one is that in order to put the new wood up, we need the old wood down. Number two is that once we get this off of here, we're actually going to paint behind it black. And we're going to do that because the reclaimed wood, unlike the new wood, has cracks and different crevices and stuff. And by painting it black behind, we won't be able, that won't stand out as much. It'll kind of fade into the reclaimed wood. And then number three is because reclaimed wood a lot of times isn't very straight. So we're actually going to use this top beam in order to make sure that all of our reclaimed wood has one edge that is straight based off of this piece. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this down. All of these screws that we're actually using here are from the original slide out trim. And as we move along, we'll show you how we created the holes and how we lined everything up. So what we're doing here is marking right top. This is going to come in handy when we're finding the screw holes in the new reclaimed wood. So we also did the same for the left top. All right, let's get these bad boys cleaned up. So now we've got our little mixture here with our dish soap, our borax, and our water. So we're going to go ahead and give them a scrub down, then rinse them off. All right, so now we're outside and we have our top piece from our slide out trim in the living room off. And the reason we did that is because I think in the past I've mentioned this a few times, maybe to other videos, even in this video, but reclaimed wood is not always square and it's not always the size you need. So without us having a shop and all the necessary tools, we're kind of making what we have work. So what we did is we have our reclaimed board down here, and then we took our board from the slide out and put it on top. And then we eyeballed it on both edges of the reclaimed wood with the board on top in order to create a straight line going across. So we're going to take our pencil, mark it off, and then rip down the line. And then in an ideal world, we'll be pretty straight on the bottom side at least, though the top side will still have the wave of the reclaimed wood. But anyway, let's go ahead and get this done. Recommended by the owner where we picked up the wood that we use a grinder to kind of clean up the wood a little bit and help prevent splinters in the future. Now we don't have a grinder, but we do have this wire brush adapter that goes with our drill. We actually used it to clean up the live edge on our bathroom countertop, so we're going to go ahead and give that a go and see how it turns out. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and sand down the back just to kind of clean it up a little bit so it's not as rough. And that way too, there's gonna be a little bit that hangs over on each side of the actual slide out. So if for whatever reason someone grabs behind there, we don't want to get them jabbed by little pieces of wood that's hanging on here. So we're gonna go ahead and sand it down. Give it a hand sanding, and the main objective here is to kind of dull up some of the sharper points, but we don't want to go over it too much or use our electric sander because we don't want to remove too much of the patina or the texture that's on the boards. Now once we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and grab our borax solution, which is just borax dissolved in warm water, and then we'll use it to spray down the boards, and what that's going to do is kill any bugs that are already in here and prevent them from coming back in the future. So now that we've got our wood all sealed and ready to go, which we did want to touch on that for a minute, we actually went with our pure tung oil. And if you followed us for a while, you may have seen that we've used the tung oil on a lot of different projects in here, and we really love the way that it turns out. However, before we came to that decision, we did use a sample piece of our reclaimed wood where we tried a wax, a clear poly, and the tung oil. And the wax was looking really good, but our only kind of reservations there was with all the nooks and crannies in the wood, it was a little difficult to get the wax in there and smoothed out right. And with all the humidity in the RV, we didn't realize or understand exactly how often we'd have to reapply that. So it seemed a little bit more labor intensive. Now, at the same time, with the wax we had, it didn't enhance the color at all of the reclaimed wood, and we wanted to bring that out a little bit more. Now, there are waxes out there that you can purchase that have a tint with them. So if you guys are looking to do something like this with reclaimed wood, we definitely suggest trying a few different options on a sample piece and find out what's the best route for you. Now, when it comes to the clear poly, we have a water-based clear poly, so it also didn't really enhance the color like we were wanting it to, though that is also a pretty easy approach as far as getting it sealed and ready to go. And then ultimately, we decided to go with the tung oil, mainly because it did enhance and bring out some of the color a little bit more like what we were going for. And at the same time, with it just being our slide-out trim and not like a countertop or something like that, we really wouldn't have to reapply it as often as we would with, say, the wax. But anyway, that was our choice. But definitely, like I said, if you guys are looking to take this approach, we really recommend using a sample piece and kind of testing all the options that you're considering to find out which approach is best for you. Anyway, our wood's all ready to go. Our slide out's painted black just for all the cracks and everything like that. So now we're going to take our old pieces and we're going to line them up with our new pieces to get the screw holes in the right place. And then we'll get our new wood up on our slide out. Here we are, and we have our slide out trim all replaced, and we absolutely love the way that it turned out with the reclaimed wood. To be honest, when you walk in, kind of the first thing you notice is the character, history, and really vibe that this wood just gives to the place. We absolutely love it. There are a couple things that we did want to note, though, in case you guys are going to try this project or considering other projects. And that's that in the video, it may have looked like we got this done in a day or two. In reality, it took closer to a week. And that was primarily because once we got the reclaimed wood, we needed to wash it and then let it dry a couple days and then add the borax solution, let it dry a couple more days and then seal it and cut it and do all that. So it did take a little bit longer than maybe it looked like in the video. So just something to keep in mind if you guys are going to try this project or work with reclaimed wood in general. Also, we did want to note, if you guys didn't check our last video, we go into different options for cleaning and getting rid of bugs in reclaimed wood. So if you're going to go this route and you need more information on that, definitely feel free to check that out. I'll put a link in the description box. Now with this specifically, this top beam up here, not with the reclaimed wood, but with our two previous ones. The first one we put up actually was even with the two side pieces, and we wanted it to hang up or over a little bit, so we did another one. And both times when we did those beams, we were using new wood that was square and straight. And the screw trick that I showed you worked flawlessly for both of those, and they went right in. But with the reclaimed wood, we had to create our own straight edge, and it's not 100% straight. So there were two screws that didn't quite line up with the holes, so we did need to drill new holes into the slide out so the screw could bite in and pull the board tight. So just something to keep in mind, especially if you're going to be working with a reclaimed wood that maybe isn't square and straight. But overall, we absolutely love the way that this project turned out, and we hope that it gave you guys a little bit of inspiration or more information if you're looking to tackle this project. But really, when you're living in a tiny space, any sort of reclaimed wood, even a small amount, can go a very long way into adding character and history into your space. But anyway, that about wraps it up for today. If you guys have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to let us know below. If you're looking for more information, we will have a link to our post in the description box. Feel free to check that out. But other than that, thank you guys so much for swinging by. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.